What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube live stream. I am back solo today. I talked with you guys just on Sunday. I don't know if you guys were here for that, but we do a live stream every Sunday morning. And I get a chance to answer all your sit-start questions for the week after I've kind of already been able to go through the slate of games. So today's live stream, obviously, we're going to be talking about some waiver wire pickups, going through which players I think you should prioritize, which ones maybe not, just depending on the team that you have. And then at the end, once we get through these top 15 waiver wire transactions, I am going to go through and take some of your sit start questions, trade questions, whatever you want to ask me about, non football questions. I don't care. I'm here for you guys. So let's just start at the top of the list. I do want to remind you guys that we have a Dalvin Cook signed helmet that we're giving away right now. All you have to do, one of the requirements I want to tell you right now, make sure you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel right now if you're not already. It's like right down below. You click on that, you can get notifications when we go live. But we're giving that away. I think that contest ends this Sunday. So I want to make sure that you guys do go and enter that contest because I would love to see one of you guys who are here supporting us every single day to win that. That's what we want. It's a neat helmet. I have one just like it that's signed by Adrian Peterson. I'm a bigger Adrian Peterson fan. Maybe you guys are Dalvin Cook fans. I don't know, but you'll enjoy this one. I promise. It's a full-size helmet and everything. So let's go and talk about the pickups for the week. So CJ Zama, he's the one who's coming in at number 15 here. It really just depends on if you need a tight end. I do think that he's probably the most widely available tight end that you could probably pick up for this week. So we do have some, like, the reason that we like him is because AJ Green probably isn't going to come back and play. I don't think AJ Green's going to play this year. And Jeff Driskel, the quarterback who's going to be taking Andy Dalton's place, has thrown 36 pass attempts this year. 10 of them have gone to CJ Uzama. So he's definitely highly targeted. He's in a matchup here against the Broncos, which is a favorable matchup for tight ends. I like him as a streaming tight end this week. So if you need someone for tight ends, CJ Uzama is the play. Going down to the next player, we're going to talk about John Ross. He's on here because, well, John Ross is going to be the one filling that AJ Green spot in the lineup. He's the one playing 90% of the snaps now. He's an every single down player. Jeff Driskel, if you guys haven't seen him play football, he's a very he's an athletic quarterback. He's got a lot of mobility to his game. He has a live arm. His accuracy down the field isn't great. So that's the part where it's like a little worrisome with John Ross. But at the same time, under Driskel, he's targeted Tyler Boyd 5 times, John Ross 5 times. So it doesn't seem like there's a clear-cut favorite between the two. John Ross has seen at least 6 targets in each of those games that AJ Green's been out. So John Ross is definitely worth a pickup. And it's like, if you're looking for a high upside option, John Ross is it. He's scored in each of the last 3 games. He's had tough matchups. And now this week, it's a much easier matchup. So I'm gonna go with John Ross as a decent pickup this week. Up next, the Tennessee Titans are on here as a streaming defense. It's just like we wanted to throw them in there just to give you one defense to talk about, despite what happened. Just last night, obviously watching that Houston Texans game, and the Titans, they didn't show up on defense, but they're going to be back at home. They're going to be in a matchup that's really a good one. I mean, I was just looking at this matchup right before we actually went live. Playing against the Jets, they're favored by 10 points. The over-under in that game is just 40.5, which means the Jets are favored, are only implied, their team total is just over 15 points. So they're not expecting many points to be scored. They obviously don't have a clear-cut number 1 receiver that you have to worry about with that secondary. The run game hasn't been doing much. So the Titans are a good streaming defense. There's actually a lot of them this week. I posted an article on Saturday mornings. I posted an article. It's called Weekend Waiver Wire Stashes. Give you guys the defenses to stream for the next week. So basically you could pick them up on the waiver wire and not have to fight anybody else for them on the waiver wire. So it's really neat. If you guys haven't seen that, it comes out Saturday morning, Weekend Waiver Wire Stashes. The defenses I had in there, just so you guys know, for this week, the Titans were in there, the Seahawks, who are somehow owned in less than 25% of leagues, the Kansas City Chiefs at Oakland, another good defense. So there's quite a few good streaming defenses this week, but we wanted to throw one in there. Number 12 is Elijah Mcguire. I don't feel like Elijah Mcguire is someone that you need to pick up. The reason I say this is because I would much rather have someone like Spencer Ware or like a Malcolm Brown on my bench, because if there's an injury to Todd Gurley, these guys could walk in and be potential league winners. Whereas Elijah Mcguire, he plays on a very bad Jets team. They're not abandoning Isaiah Crowell. They had their bye week, and it was kind of their chance to implement him more into the offense, but he only saw 7 touches. So he's kind of stuck in that 7 to 10 touch role. He's not going to win you a fantasy league. He's somebody that you pick up if you need someone for a particular week. Like if you own Leonard Fournette and you just need someone to stick into your lineup for a week, you can do that, but it's not a very enticing option is all. Going down to the next one, we have David Moore. David Moore on the Seattle Seahawks team, it's a team that's obviously not throwing the ball a whole lot. But when you look at like what he offers you as a wide receiver, he's the big bodied wide receiver playing on the perimeter for Russell Wilson, and he's been playing phenomenal. He's better than a number 3 receiver. I don't want to say that he's the number 1 over Tyler Lockett because he's not. Tyler Lockett's is still capped. I want to say Tyler Lockett, I don't know if he's seen over 6 targets this year, whereas David Moore has. David Moore has been targeted just as much as Baldwin, just as much as Lockett since he's become a starter. So he should be in that conversation for like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, especially when we're projecting the Seahawks to throw the ball a little bit more. He might be a little bit volatile. He may not be like consistent, but I mean, once you get outside the top 15 receivers, not many of them are. So David Moore definitely worth a pickup if you're like you're going to make the playoffs and you just need someone on your bench who you could potentially plug in if you have an injury. I like David Moore. Going down the list, we have Lamar Jackson. I have been on record as saying that I do not believe the Ravens are going to go back to Joe Flacco and until Lamar Jackson loses a game or completely self-destructs. I think they're going to use this as an excuse to keep Joe Flacco on the bench with his hip injury. Not to say that his hip injury isn't real. I think it is, but I think they're also going to play it extremely safe with him. They're not going to let him come back, especially when Lamar Jackson's won 2 games in a row. He looked more comfortable last week. They obviously used him in a different role. They had him throwing the ball a little bit more. There were some bad passes. Don't get me wrong. Some really bad ones, but he's still going to use his legs. We obviously saw that he rushed for his he rushed for a touchdown last week. And the Falcons this year have struggled against the run. That's like their biggest weakness for whatever reason as of late. They're struggling against the run. Their secondary has actually gotten a little bit better. Lamar Jackson's going to be in like the high-end QB2 territory. He's probably the preferred streamer of the week in terms of the guys that were widely available in fantasy leagues. So Lamar Jackson, definitely a high floor fantasy option. He may not come with a top 5 ceiling, but he does have a fine floor. So he's a good streamer. Number 9, Anthony Miller. I'm a little worried about Anthony Miller in terms of what you can expect from him on a weekly basis, because you're talking about a Bears team that has just so many different options. You know, they've had Allen Robinson when he was out. That's when you saw Anthony Miller take a big leap in production. I think he got closer and closer, like on the same page with Mitch Trubisky, and you started to see them perform more and more. But ever since Allen Robinson's come back, we've seen those targets come back down. You know, Trey Burton's targets haven't been really sky high. Taylor Gabriel's been up and down. Tariq Cohen should be involved. Adam Shaheen's back in the offense. There's just so many different players in this offense every single week that are going to be involved. It's not going to be easy to rely on Anthony Miller. What you want to look for is you want to look for matchups where Allen Robinson's going to face a shutdown cornerback and a team that's been exposed against slot receivers, because that's where Miller plays the majority of the time. So Miller is worth a spot on your bench for sure, but I don't think that he's like someone that you have to start every week or anything like that. Going down number 8, Mohamed Sanu. This is just getting a part of that Atlanta offense, right? I mean, they're a team that they're out of it now. They're not playing for a playoff berth anymore. I'm pretty sure, like if they lose one more game, I'm pretty sure they're mathematically eliminated. But as of right now, it's slim to none where they're not going to make the playoffs. So they're going to throw the ball. I mean, Tevin Coleman, I think he totaled 8 carries last week. They're just not running the ball very well over the last 3 weeks for whatever reason. That the interior of the offensive line has lost a couple guys, so that's definitely part of it. But Mohamed Sanu is not an exciting option. He's not going to win you a fantasy title, but he's going to perform well. He's kind of like that high floor option. It's kind of like Willie Snead, where it's like this is a guy that was producing basically 10 PPR points 80% of the time. That's what Mohamed Sanu is. It's just he has a more reliable quarterback right now. So I would rather own someone like Mohamed Sanu. Going down the list, Theo Riddick. The way you have to look at Theo Riddick is he's a slot receiver. That's basically what the role he's playing on that Lions team. They're not a team that's going to run the ball very well. I mean, Kerryon Johnson was doing wonderful things behind that offensive line, but Kerryon Johnson was breaking tackles left and right. Theo Riddick's not that guy. Legarrette Blount averaged 2.3 yards per carry before playing the Bears, and for whatever reason, he would go for, I think it was 86 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Bears, who had been shutting down running backs all year. But Theo Riddick has been seeing consistently, I think he's averaged 7 targets over the last 3 weeks, and that's only going to grow. We have Marvin Jones, who was placed on IR yesterday, so we know he's not coming back. He's going to target Kenny Galladay a lot, but there's still plenty of targets there for Theo Riddick. So Theo Riddick is a great pickup, like especially in a PPR format. I believe that he can offer you like that RB3 floor in PPR formats. He may not be a league winner. That's fine. But there's some of you out there who, maybe Melvin Gordon was lost. Maybe Theo Riddick's available on your waiver wire. You have a dominant team and you're just looking for someone not to lose you a week. I think Theo Riddick's that guy. Going down to number 6. Now, this is a different type of waiver wire pickup. It's Justin Jackson. I actually have Justin Jackson as my number 1 RB pickup of the week that is under 40% owned. So Austin Eckler, I'm sorry guys, he's owned. Josh Adams, Gus Edwards, these guys are owned in more than 50% of leagues. We're not going to talk about those guys because we figured that they're on rosters. But Justin Jackson, he's the one who came in and actually totaled more carries than Austin Eckler did with Melvin Gordon going down. He totaled 7 carries in the game. He ran extremely well. I like Justin Jackson coming out of the draft. He obviously fell in the draft, but a big reason was because Northwestern used him in a very big, he came into the NFL with so many touches on his frame, but now he's been resting all year. He hasn't had many carries behind Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. And I think that the Chargers kind of changed their mind about Austin Eckler when Melvin Gordon went down with that hamstring injury. Because if you guys remember, in London, Melvin Gordon went down with hamstring injury. They relied on Eckler. He did not play very well in that game in a workhorse role. Ever since that time, they have really cut down his snaps. He wasn't playing nearly the snaps. He wasn't getting near the touches. And then you had Melvin Gordon go down, and we saw Justin Jackson out carry him. This could be a timeshare. They may have Jackson walk into that Melvin Gordon role and have Eckler just play an enhanced, an increased role in what he was already doing, basically the passing down back. So Justin Jackson, I don't think you should overlook him when you get to the waiver wire this week. He's someone that I would love to stash on my bench. You may not need to play him, but I think that he's a great stash. Going down to Legarrette Blount at number 5. So Blount is interesting. And the reason I say that is because this is a conversation that Bobby and I had in the podcast. I didn't want to pick up Legarrette Blount at all, but he reminded me that they're done for the year. The Lions aren't going anywhere. Obviously they're not playing for this year. They have Kerryon Johnson, who's dealing with an MCL sprain. Some people are saying it could be a multi-week thing where he's going to miss another 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know why they wouldn't have shut him down then. I think they're expecting him to come back. But looking at the schedule that they have upcoming, Legarrette Blount is worth an add just in case that happens, because they're playing the Rams this week. That's not going to be a great game script for someone like him, who's a first and second down back. He's, I think they're 11-point underdogs. So it's not a great game script, but he could fall into a touchdown if you really needed him to. But after that, they're going to play the Cardinals, who have been a bottom 3 defense against the run all season long. They're going to play the Bills after that. That could be a positive game script for the Lions. And then after that, they're going to return home against the Vikings. But it's more talking about that Cardinals-Bills matchups. If you really need him, if you're trying to find that Melvin Gordon replacement for the first 2 weeks in the fantasy playoffs, if Kerryon Johnson is out, I think Legarrette Blount is going to be a top 36 option in both those matchups. So he's worth a pickup. It's just, I don't want you to go over the top and spend everything that you have on him. So going down to Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead is the next one in. A lot of people are probably wondering, wait, where'd Rex Burkhead come from? I thought he went to IR. He did, but he was eligible to return, and the Patriots have activated him. He can and probably will play this week against Minnesota. Now, it's not a great matchup to walk into, but Rex Burkhead is a guy that even when, Dion Lewis last year and James White were getting theirs, Rex Burkhead was still giving RB2, RB3 performances most weeks. It's a little bit complicated with Sony Michele because he's been running so well on first and second down. And when he's in the lineup, they're essentially giving him 20 carries. And as they should. Sony Michele has looked better and better as the weeks have gone on. I think this hurts James White more than anything, because James White, now that they've had all the healthy pass catchers, now they have Josh Gordon, they have Rob Gronkowski back, Julian Edelman's back in the fold. All these players adding in, and you add Burkhead. I think Burkhead and White's upside is going to be limited. I don't think this affects Sony Michele very much. He hasn't done much in the passing game. He's essentially playing that Legarrette Blount role, but he's better. So I don't think this affects him too much, but I think Rex Burkhead is definitely worth an addition, because the Patriots, when you get to December, they do run the ball an awful lot. Number 3, Carlos Hyde. This was a late addition to our waiver wire because we found out that Leonard Fournette was suspended a game for his punch thrown last week. Stupid move, whatever. He's appealing it. We're going to find out by Wednesday. So tomorrow, we're going to find out tomorrow whether or not Leonard Fournette's suspension is upheld. I actually think that he might not be suspended for this game. And the reason I say that is because if you guys recall, AJ Green, when he got into that fight with Jalen Ramsey, it was last year, I want to say, or Mike Evans, both of them. I can't remember which one, but basically, both of those guys got in a fight. I know that, but they were ejected for the rest of the game, which Leonard Fournette was, and they said that essentially served as his 1-game suspension. So I don't know if that's going to be the case with him, but he is appealing. Just know that Carlos Hyde might be a waste of a waiver wire pickup, but he's still worth it because you might have a starting running back on your hands this week. The Jaguars did just fire their offensive coordinator. We have no idea how this offense is going to look. What we do know is that TJ Yeldon is the better 3-down back. He offers more versatility in the passing game. So I'm not going to go crazy with Hyde, but I think he is definitely worth a pickup, especially if you have Leonard Fournette. Number 2, Josh Reynolds. He's someone that, when he filled in for Cooper Kupp earlier in the season, he didn't really get many targets in those games. He did score 2 touchdowns. I think that was against Denver. He did score twice. So people are like, oh, obviously he's productive. His yardage wasn't there. And then now people are going crazy for Josh Reynolds because, well, he had a good game against the Chiefs. I mean, when there's 104 points scored or 105 points scored in a game, there's obviously going to be a lot of room for production, including for Josh Reynolds. The reason you want to like him, though, is because he plays on an offense that's very, very concentrated. Okay. They really don't use the tight ends very much. I know that Gerald Everett scored 2 touchdowns, but he hasn't played more than, I think, 23 snaps all year. Tyler Higbee's nothing. So when you look at the concentrated offense, they're moving Robert Woods into that Cooper Kupp role, and that means Josh Reynolds is taking on that Robert Woods role, and he is going to have a role in this offense. They run, he's going to play 90% of snaps because that's how often the Rams have 3 wide receiver sets in the field. Obviously, Todd Gurley's there. That's going to happen. But there are some tough matchups for the run against the Rams coming up in the fantasy playoffs. So you might see them go to the air a little bit. So Josh Reynolds, he may not be consistent week over week, but I'll tell you what, it's rare to find a wide receiver on the waiver wire who is and who gives you this much upside. So Josh Reynolds, definitely up there. If you want an upside pick for your bench, he's the one. Number 1 is Adam Humphries. I like Humphries. I really do. But he's not going to win you a fantasy title. Let's be real about that. Adam Humphries, again, a stat I've mentioned now the last couple of weeks is that Adam Humphries over the since the start of week 6, he is a top 15 fantasy wide receiver in PPR formats. He didn't let down last week. He scored a touchdown. This week, he's going up against the Carolina team that he had already totaled 82 yards and 2 touchdowns against. I think it was back in week 9. So there's a lot to like about Adam Humphries. He gives you a safe floor. He's not getting those. He's not going to have 100 yards, and a touchdown every week, nothing like that. But I actually moved him up to my number 36 wide receiver in my rest of season rankings. He is someone like a Mohamed Sanu that you could stick into your lineup and have a high floor. Fortunately, Adam Humphries, when OJ Howard went down, it cleared up just a couple of targets. Deshaun Jackson's dealing with some sort of hand-wrist injury that is causing him to lose snaps. I don't know. I'm just saying that Adam Humphries, with Jameis Winston, the quarterback that he has to become now, the fact that he has to kind of dial back his aggressiveness. And I think that's why you're seeing Humphries being utilized more in the offense with him. It's because Humphries will create naturally as a slot receiver, will create more separation than guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So Adam Humphries, great pickup if you're looking for someone to stick in your lineup as like a wide receiver 3 who's not going to lose you the week, whereas Josh Reynolds is more like the upside pick. So that wraps up the waiver wire pickups, guys. I'm going to answer some of your questions. Obviously, I have to continue my writing for the week, but I do want to make sure I made sure I cleared times to answer some of your guys' questions. So I'm just going to start. I'm not going to answer them in any particular order, just however I kind of see them in here. Let's see. Jonnu or Uzama? I would play Uzama. Jonnu Smith does not have a very good matchup this week. He's been seeing an increased role, but he's only seen more than 3 targets one time all year. So it's not like you're getting crazy volume. And then Jamal Adams has been awesome against tight ends. I know Gronk had a touchdown last week, but that catch, I'm sorry, Jonnu Smith is not making that catch. 99% of tight ends aren't. Jamal Adams has held tight ends to the second fewest yardage in the NFL. So it's not a good matchup for him. I'd go Uzama. Let's see, Chris Carson or Adams full PPR. I'm not sure if that's for this week or not. I haven't gotten to both of their matchups just yet, so it's tough for me to say. I'm actually going to pull up to see if I have. Nope, Seattle's up against San Francisco, so I'm probably going to go with them. Philadelphia against Washington. Washington has been they've struggled a little bit against the run as of late, but I'm not worried about them. I think that they're a stout run defense up the middle. I think that their linebackers are healthy, relatively healthy, and they should be able to contain Adams. But Adams, he's still a part-time running back, guys. I don't want you to forget this. They're not all of a sudden going to go to a workhorse in Philadelphia. If they were going to do that, they would have done it with Jay Ajayi. So they're not going to do that. So I'm going to go with Chris Carson in that matchup. Would you start DJ Moore over Adams, Sony, or Cooper? No, I would not. It's so DJ Moore, the last time they played Tampa, a lot of people wanted to play him. And I think that the ECR on him was like in the top 30. I think he finished that game with like 2 catches for 12 yards, or maybe even 1 catch for 12 yards, something like that. Like he wasn't heavily utilized. It's the offense, right? I mean, Devin Funchess, if he's out, I definitely want DJ Moore in like that high end wide receiver 3, low end wide receiver 2 territory, because he is too good. They're getting him involved in the game plan. But over Adams, absolutely. Like, unless that's Josh Adams, I would play him over Josh Adams. If it's Devontae Adams, no. Sony, no, you don't bench Sony. And then Cooper, playing really well. It's tough to even think about benching Amari Cooper right now. He had the 1 down game, and this week he is going to see Marshawn Lattimore in coverage, which it's a little worrisome for sure. But the game script of this one, I mean, New Orleans defends the run about as well as any team in the NFL. Like seriously, like they're ridiculous. They have allowed, I want to say it is 554 yards. Okay. The next closest team in terms of like the fewest yards allowed to running backs is at 741 yards. So they're almost 200 yards less than the next closest team. They've allowed just 3.24 yards per carry. So Zeke is going to have trouble moving the ball on the ground against the Saints. So I think we should see them have to go through the air a little bit more. And Amari, they're going to move him around the formation. They're going to put him in the slot a little bit. So no, I wouldn't play more over those guys unless, of course, like I said, that's Josh Adams. Let's see. Trey Quan or DJ Moore? Oh, it's DJ Moore, 100%. So Trey Quan, I don't want people to forget, what he was doing before that big breakout game. Like he was a guy that wasn't even getting targeted. They played the Bengals and he didn't see a single target. He played all the snaps that game. It wasn't like a lack of snaps. So, it's DJ Moore for sure. It's not even close for me. Andrew Luck or Jameis Winston? I think this week it's got to be Jameis Winston, right? I mean, like maybe not. It's tough, man, because so Indianapolis going into Jacksonville, it used to be like a really scary thing, right? But there's been 2 teams that you really need to pay attention to that have played the Eagles this year, and they are that play the Jags this year, the Eagles and the Colts. Why are those 2 teams important? Because they both play the same style, like the type of offense. We have Frank Reich, we have Doug Peterson, same coaching tree, right? So both of those quarterbacks in those games, like totaled like almost identical numbers against the Jags. We had Andrew Luck posting 21 of 29 for 285, 3 touchdowns. And we had Wentz 21 of 30, 286 and 3 touchdowns. Like legitimately, it was like almost identical stat lines. So obviously the Jags have some sort of weakness against that style offense. Now, AJ Boye was not available for, I don't think either game he was there. So I'm going to downgrade Luck a little bit, but I can't bench Andrew Luck with the way he's playing right now, even if I do like Jameis Winston. So it is Andrew Luck for me. Let's see. Josh Adams, Gus Edwards, or Humphries in a standard flex. So I'm going to go with Edwards here. They're just running the ball way too much. It's hard for me to get away with that. He's got back-to-back 100-yard games. The matchup against Atlanta is really good. They've really been struggling against the run as of late. So I'm going to go with Edwards there. Wentz rest of the season, I've lowered myself on him. It seems like once they put Golden Tate into this offense, it seems like they're just out of tempo. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if they take him out of the offense, if it works. It's crazy to think that you would take a player as talented as Golden Tate, a guy who's a yards after the catch guy, just get the ball in his hands. It's crazy to think that would affect the offense the way it has, but it really has. So it's like, I've lowered Wentz down to like low end QB1, where I would play some streamers over him at times. Like Jameis Winston, I would have played him over Wentz last weekend. Obviously, that worked out. So Malcolm Brown, Spencer Ware over all these guys, yeah, it depends, right? So if it's just a bench stash, yes. If it's just a bench stash, I would rather have Spencer Ware and then Malcolm Brown right after that. Because if it's a bench stash and you're not using these guys, yeah, like you're not going to use them. You're looking for a league winner, right? If there's an injury, like I said, to one of those guys in front of them, they're league winners. Like you want those guys in your roster. Drop 1 to 2 between. Oh, drop 1 or 2. 1 to 2. I'm confused by the question. If you want me to rank them for the rest of the season, I would say LaShawn McCoy is number 1, Burkhead 2, Duke Johnson 3. Duke Johnson has not been involved ever since Freddie Kitchens took over. I know people were talking about it, and he saw 9 targets, I think, the first game, but it was really matchup dependent. Like it really was. Like the first 2 games, actually, I think Kansas City and Atlanta, 2 of the teams that are the worst in the NFL against pass catching backs. So with Nick Chubb getting more involved in the passing game, Duke Johnson's fading further into oblivion. DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, PPR. This week, I'd play DJ Moore. Stash defense for the playoffs. Denver is the team. Like, I hadn't looked too far ahead into the playoffs because I try and focus on the week at hand. There's a lot of guys on the site. I think we've had someone on the website write up, some of the fantasy defenses to target, but Denver is one that a lot of people have kind of overlooked. The schedule that they have in the playoffs is fantastic. Someone brought that to my attention. I looked, and they certainly do. So, Chase Daniel or Josh Rosen in a 2-quarterback league. That's tough. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna go with Chase Daniel just because, like, I think the offense is more friendly. I don't think Josh Rosen has much time. You have the Packers, who have actually, I think they lead the NFL in sacks. Bobby brought that up to me, so that's a problem for someone like Josh Rosen, he's really struggled under pressure. He's not, like when he's rushed, he's not playing very well. So I'll go Chase Daniel. The Giants aren't a great matchup, but at the same time, Chase Daniel showed to be competent, the ability to play in this offense. So, all right, I'm gonna take one more, and then we'll get out of here. Who should I start? Doug Baldwin, David Moore, or Trey Quan Smith? Um, it's definitely Baldwin or Moore. I'm gonna go with Doug Baldwin just because I believe he's like the easiest matchup where you have David Moore playing the way he is. You have Tyler Lockett playing the way he is in the slot. That's where San Francisco has kind of struggled against some of the receivers this year. Not to say that in the perimeter they can't get it done, but Moore is going to see a lot of Richard Sherman, and that's not a great matchup. So I'm going to go with Doug Baldwin for that one. But thank you guys. Seriously, thank you for tuning in. And again, if you guys missed it at the beginning of the show, make sure you guys get entered to win that Dalvin Cook signed helmet. It's a full-size helmet. All we're requiring you to do, you want to subscribe to the channel below. Obviously that takes one click of your mouse or your phone, whatever. And you go to fantasypros.com/contest. And then basically you just put your name in there so we know who to contact when you win. Hopefully one of you guys do win. Really want you to do that. The contest closes this Sunday. But we will